Closer to the Truth, Time Traveler Leaves. Trail of Clues by Melissa Osaki, January 30, 2024.
Not everyone appreciates or fully understands why the Plejaren would only allow films and photos prior to the digital age. When one investigates and gets into the nitty-gritty of photo and film analyses, then they will truly understand. Frauds and charlatans are ubiquitous in the modern field of ufology, which only amounts to half of all the problems in that community.
In hindsight of what the UFO field would become, the Plejaren knew all too well that it would be absolutely useless to produce any photo or video evidence after the dawn of the digital age.
The F-117 video footage is no exception. It was recorded in 1981 with pre-digital technology and well before the launch of the first digital video recorder. We will have to wait to learn the details about Wendell's camera, but I suspect that it was older than 1981. When did digital video recording hit the scene? Emphasis added.
The video technology you see today first arrived in 1995, when Panasonic and Sony brought digital recording to life. The first digital video camcorder kick-started a fast-paced evolution in digital film, and things have never been the same. Truly.
Source: Our Digital Era.
The F-117 flight video was uploaded to YouTube on September 12, 2017, which was more than 3 years before Wendell's photographs were ever known about. Michael Horn found the photos on October 8, 2020, and first revealed them 7 days later on October 15, 2020. A copy of the first flight video was downloaded and saved on April 24, 2022. It was sent to one other person in the event that the original YouTube video was taken down. The craft-like object that appears beneath the F-117 was in the video when it was first examined back in May 2022. The objective now is to rule out digital manipulation and show that the object was likely an original component of the video. The screenshot below is used to show in the event that it gets deleted, that the YouTube publish date was indeed September 12, 2017.
Forensic analysis.
The following images are from an analysis of the object that appears beneath the stealth jet. Forensic tools can be used to find anomalies that aren't apparent to the naked eye. While they are most often used for detecting anomalies in photographs, they can also show hints of digital manipulation in a screenshot. It's always best to have the original image, but we can still glean some information from the screenshots. We are looking for digital alterations and manipulations that might have happened after the film was made. Something that was digitally inserted will leave clues. In order to rule out digital manipulation, we must exhaust all available resources. We know that the Plejaren have a unique manner of positioning their beamships, which at times can seem peculiar and also appear as an optical illusion. If the object beneath or behind the F-117 is indeed Ascot's beamship, then once again, we see a very unique and clever positioning of the craft.
Noise analysis.
Objects should have a similar contrast and appearance. Digital manipulations or inserted objects will often stand out and look out of place in the noise analysis. In this next image, we compare a screenshot of a faked UFO image, which was made for the purpose of this analysis. The fake UFO was cut out of another image and then inserted into the image below. A screenshot was then taken of the faked image. I'm using screenshots to show that you can detect visual anomalies in copies that are not the original file. The original file is always the best option, but not always necessary. You'll notice that the colors on the UFO are brighter and have a different scheme. It looks a bit out of place with the rest of the photo. It's suspicious, but can it be ruled a fraud? The screenshot of the fake UFO image. Here is one of Wendell's images for comparison. Notice how everything just blends together in a uniform fashion. It blends so well that you can barely see the jet and ask its beamship at a glance. The objects in this image are in harmony with the background.
Level sweep.
This tool enhances the edges of objects and makes it easier to notice if something was cut out and fraudulently inserted or digitally altered. If you examine the pixels along the edges of the jet and the craft-like object, they are similar in appearance and size. We see a consistent pattern across the edges of the jet and the craft-shaped object.
Luminance gradient.
This follows a similar logic to fringing. The clearer and more in focus the object, the clearer and sharper the outline. It can help determine the position of an object relative to other objects. Here we see more consistency across the entire image. Based on these images, it appears that the object is behind the jet rather than directly underneath. We can see the turquoise outline going under the bottom of the wheel from the left. There is also a very faint pink outline on the right underside of the wheel. The bigger clue is the clear break in the blue line on the top left side of the craft-like object. It would indicate that the object is behind the wheel and further away than it appears. The likelihood is very high that the stealth jet is in the foreground and the craft-like object hovers somewhere in the background. I haven't determined how far away or how close it might be. If someone wants to make a relative determination based on the known dimensions of the F-117 and Ascot's beamship, the dimensions are listed below. The DAL Universe ship is over a third of the size of the F-117, roughly 39.8%. It's improbable that it would be underneath based on the size ratio in the image. F-117, Nighthawk dimensions, span 43.3 ft, length 65.9 ft, height 12.4 ft. DAL Universe, beamship 8 meters in diameter, 26.24 ft. The actual beamship that Ascot was using remains unknown. An image submitted by David Hurlbert gives us a general size comparison.
Artifacts.
Artifacts are the result of degradation, dust, scratches, blemishes, etc. that exist on the outside of the film. Artifacts can appear on top of the real objects in a film or photograph. If the craft-like object was indeed an original component of the film, we should see an indication that the artifacts move on top of the object. If the object was digitally inserted at a later date, we would expect to see an anomaly where the artifact and object meet.
Principal component analysis with depth projection.
In this first image, a small bit of depth is added so we can first look at the wheel in relation to the object. it becomes even more noticeable that a section of the craft-like object is hidden behind the wheel. Here we look at artifacts in the film. You'll notice the lines going up and down at various intervals during the film. Those lines are artifacts that the original film would likely not have had. Here we investigate whether they are on top of the objects in the film. It may be hard to see without a magnifier tool, but the lines are indeed found on both the jet and the object. The area on the left side of the object has what appears to be a reflection on it.
Principal component analysis.
When an object is fraudulently inserted into an image or frame, it tends to stand out from other objects in the frame. It's not always easy to notice this unless we change the contrast and compression rates. Inserted objects will often resist compression and retain the same or similar appearance as before being compressed. This becomes noticeable when we look at second and third level compression.
Level 1. Level 2. Level 3. Everything appears even and congruent throughout Level 2 and Level 3 compression.
In these next images, we look at the fake UFO image once again. You'll notice how the UFO doesn't compress at the same rate as its surroundings. Not all images will look this obvious. But in order to understand the evidence, you have to first understand what you're looking for and how anomalies, however small, can add up across the different modes of forensic analyses. The objective is to find consistency or inconsistency across multiple stages of the process. A thorough investigation of all aspects of the case should accompany the forensic research and physical evidence. Once you have collected all the evidence and supporting facts, it is then that a logical conclusion can be determined. Level 1. Level 2. Level 3. We can rule that this UFO image is highly suspicious. The reason these images are so interesting is because film can also be manipulated or altered if someone has the technology and understanding to do it. We recently learned from Ta in Contact 875 that a forgery will occur with Simya-Se's films. It seems that it will happen at some point in our future. The details were unclear, but it goes to show that our primitive tests are no match for advanced races. After thorough examination using all the available tools, the craft-like object appears consistent with its surroundings. It remains congruent across different forms of testing and shows no obvious signs of being digitally inserted in a fraudulent manner. Both the F1R17 and the craft-shaped object appear to be part of the original content. If an alteration was made, it was achieved with higher and more sophisticated technology that is capable of such precision and deception.
The undercarriage.
I'll leave you with one final piece of evidence, which may actually be the most stunning piece to date. There have been a lot of questions and controversy regarding the landing gear and why we can't see it in Wendell's photographs. I've had a number of people tell me that it couldn't have been the first flight because the landing gear was never retracted during that flight. We know from Hal Farley's interview that he took the F-117 up to 10,000 feet, almost 2 miles or 1.6 kilometers, on that first flight. Let's take a moment to consider how unlikely it would have been to capture a clear image of the landing gear with old camera technology. Visibility would have been affected by the sun, wind, shadows, and other atmospheric effects as well. Nevertheless, Ascot and Wendell didn't take a trip to the future for no reason. And that's why no stone has been left unturned. Just as the camouflage paint scheme was an open secret waiting to be found, so too was the landing gear. This one detail has been a source of contention that deepened the mystery around the flight date laid out by Ptah in Contact 759. This final piece of evidence takes us from speculation to acknowledgement. Ascot and Wendell Stevens took a time-traveling journey to the future to Groom Lake, Nevada. He photographed the first top-secret test flight of the F-117A in June 1981. The landing gear was retracted on the second test flight, which was on July 1, 1981. This final piece of evidence further corroborates the details given by Ptah and Billy.
Final thoughts.
Studying this case has shed a lot of light on the roadblocks and ill-considered attitudes that Wendell Stevens faced in his field of research. Not only did he attract the wrath of the U.S. government for his collection of evidence relating to UFOs and extraterrestrial life, but also because he discovered the real truth of the entire matter. He absolutely knew the truth, and the government became aware of this fact. They were never going to let him continue with the knowledge he had, and that is why they sent him off to prison. Wendell very likely knew more than they did about everything, and also how everything would turn out. In the end, Wendell kept his silence, as the Plejaren and Ascot always knew he would. The U.S. government, along with the military and intelligence services, should feel ashamed and disgusted for the role they played in trying to disgrace such an honorable and good human being. They not only drug him through the mud, but they tried to tarnish his name and ruin his reputation. Even then, he still kept his silence, because he knew that the alternative would have been much worse. We can ask ourselves how Wendell knew so much, but I would hope that the answer to that question is obvious at this point. Below is an excerpt from a letter that Wendell sent to his friend from prison. Knowing what I know about Wendell Stevens, he would be proud to know that his research and hard work led to many others searching for answers as well. The wheel keeps rolling along as the silent revolution of truth continues. Thanks to Scott Baxter for Wendell's letter.